I never even realized that kicker.
He doesn't share them with you?
Coming with a side-by-side. Want to give a quick interview?
Yeah, look at it. Dude, it's a dog.
They drop like a sack of potatoes.
All right, guys. Welcome to the Deer Shop Podcast, presented by Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky John Boat Company.
Your track job was the first fun track job.
Oh, that was the best.
That kind of like, I think part of my life was influenced by that night.
Looking back on it, my biggest regret was opening day. I knew where it needed to be. I should have just done a simple hanging bank off the corner of that field, and he would have been toast. But I didn't.
That was our first public land deer hunting trip, and it went extremely well. 5 years ago, we couldn't shoot a deer at 100 yards with a slug gun. Now you're shooting turkeys at 100 yards with a shotgun.
It was a 90-yard shot pass through.
And then you miss him 3 times with a rifle at 70 yards on video for the whole world to see.
Yeah, that's what Caleb did.
This is the first buck I've shot in over 10 years. And, not to get too crazy emotional about it, but like
10 years, no buck. All right, guys. Deer Shop Podcast, episode 72. It is the Deer Gun Love-Hate episode. We're on Sunday of the Ohio firearm deer season.
We have one sit left.
We have one sit left. Yeah, it's lunchtime Sunday. I don't know, noonish. What time is it? I don't know.
Caleb doesn't know because Packers are not playing today.
Yeah,
so
no Packers today. So I'm not even watching football. I'm not doing any sports betting. None of that stuff's happening today. We're going to talk about gun season. We're back here in the studio. Last week we recorded from Deer Camp, West Virginia. That video will be live when this video airs. So when you're listening to this podcast, either Monday morning or watching the video Monday evening, the Deer Camp, West Virginia video, which every year is our
best video by far.
Yeah, it's our best video by far as requested, as far as the content I like to make and view-wise. It is our coup de grace every year. It's the one. And it'll be live when you're watching this. Goes live Sunday at 4 p.m.
So go check it out.
Yeah, check out the West Virginia Camp Gore Deer Camp. We already podcasted from down there. Like I said, video's live, so we don't got to touch that too much. It was just a great week. Gore killed his best buck ever down there. Couldn't ask for anything more than what we did. It's our longest video ever, I believe. I think it's our all-time longest video that's not a podcast.
An hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's really close. A couple of our Western films and stuff have been that way. We've had some deer camp videos around an hour. A little bit over an hour, but I do think it may be our longest running video ever. That's not a 3-hour sit-down podcast. Mm-hmm. So check that out. Ohio, Deer Week. It's been cold. A lot of deer have died. Opening day was 27,000. I looked it up. 27,000 deer were killed opening day, which is the most since 2012 because the weather was perfect.
A lot of people hunting.
Yeah, a lot of people hunting. We've had temperatures in the 20s and 30s. Some days with some snow, some days with some sun. No real rainouts. A little windy midweek. There's some real cold, windy midweek hunts, but weather-wise for deer gun, I don't think you could ask for anything better, and that's probably the reason why.
Snow midweek.
Yeah, that's why I think a lot of these deer have been killed. I mean,
a little bit of weird shift. It seems like people hunt the beginning of the week more and the weekend less nowadays.
Yeah, it doesn't. I did a lot of driving around. I haven't done a ton of hunting this week. I guess that's what's the word I'm looking for? I guess that's
It depends.
Yeah, I have done a ton of hunting, but I have taken days off, and on those days off, I've drove around a little bit just to check out the scene, and I know there were some groups who did a lot of deer driving like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but doesn't seem to be much happening today. A lot of guys are kind of done, even though it's Sunday. Monday, I heard of 50. I think I counted 58 or 61 shots total, and we hunted most of the day. Took a break for lunch.
Pretty par for the course.
But then the rest of the week, whenever I'd hunt either a morning or an evening, I'd only hear less than 10. I think maybe 10 shots on Tuesday night, and then like 3 on Wednesday.
And I hunted Friday night and didn't hear a single shot. Granted, it was windy. Didn't hear a single shot Thursday night either.
Yeah, I mean, it's been real strange with the amount of shots we've heard. Deer have been dying, but I think there was a lot of people hunting early in the week, took the middle of the week off. Whatever went down Friday, Saturday, driving midday. You're not going to hear those shots unless you're sitting in the woods all day, which none of us were. So, man,
sometimes you wonder what these people are shooting at, especially opening day. From the crack of dawn,
I heard a
9
shot.
o'clock. There's a shot every 30 seconds.
I heard a shot 9 minutes early on opening day. Like someone shot 9 minutes before legal light, and it was dark. I mean, I couldn't see the ground, and someone shot.
But did you see that comment on Facebook? Someone said on your post that you made that they were out sighting their gun in right before first light with a spotlight.
I don't know if that was like.
I think it was true.
I mean, it might have been. I do know, like West Virginia kind of opened my eyes to it. I do think some guys come back at lunchtime. Like you hear a lot of shots around noon, like down in West Virginia, and I know we talked about this in that podcast, but I think it's as guys come back from lunch and literally shoot their gun a few times. Like, I missed, something must be wrong. I missed that buck at 50 yards. So they come back down and ting, 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 ting,
But we
ting.
would do the same thing. You missed a buck for no reason. You probably go back and shoot your gun.
So just because you hear a gunshot doesn't mean they're hunting. I mean, I know a lot of guys leave the woods around lunchtime. It kicks a lot of deer up, and then people shoot at them, but I don't know. It makes you wonder.
I also think there's probably some traditions out there where if they have like a deer camp set up here at home, that the old guy walks out on the porch and shoots in the morning just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, like 10 o'clock, time for lunch, whatever. But I do think, and another thing that doesn't get talked about, I think the shots carry around here far.
Yeah, we're hearing these shots from miles and miles.
Because I think,
away.
and we'll talk about it later, I think when Tate shot Megatron, I heard that shot and it sounded like it was in our North Woods, and it was 2.2 miles away. And it sounded loud when he shot. So, we hear those distant shots, we're like, oh, man, that's a buck down at so-and-so's farm. Nope, it's 5, 6, 7 miles away that these shots are carrying. So I did hear Luke shooting. The one day I was like, someone's having a deer drive by your house, Luke, because I've heard like 8 shots. And then he's like, nope, I was sighting in my fucking rifle in my backyard. Like
Like
fuck
an
him.
asshole.
Yeah, 2
know,
o'clock on Friday.
Yeah, like an asshole. He was, and he did not get it sighted in.
No.
He can't get that gun to shoot worth a shit. He shoots
It's a Henry 4570 all-weather. So if anybody has that gun and says that it shoots good, I just don't think that gun shoots.
Yeah, I mean, we've had
It's
that
just
thing with a
inaccurate.
with a scope in a vise at 50 yards, and it will not hold a group.
No, it'll shoot a 6-inch group at 50 yards.
Yeah, I shot a deer once at about 80 yards with it in West Virginia, the buck tree
way
tag,
off.
and I shot him through the ears. I was aiming at his chest as he was walking through the trees, and I shot him through the ears.
Granted, that could have been a little bit of you. But
I suck at shooting. We'll talk
yeah,
about that.
still,
in this
that
podcast.
45-70, for whatever reason, that gun is just inherently inaccurate, and I don't know why.
It's a beautiful looking gun, but man, does that thing suck. It's a good deer drive, unload 'em all gun, which is, sloppy. We'll talk about that for sure. So this week, I killed a doe Monday. Nick killed a buck Monday. Kendall killed her buck
Tuesday
or Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Matt killed his buck Wednesday. Yeah, Kendall killed Tuesday. Matt killed Wednesday. What day did Tate kill?
Wednesday. Also Wednesday.
No, because I was
Monday.
here when you brought it over.
Monday.
Oh, yeah, Monday.
Tate killed opening day.
Tate killed Monday. Megatron is dead. Announcement: Megatron is dead.
Yeah,
if you're
we can
local,
talk-
you've
we-
already.
We
we'll-
can talk about that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a pretty simple story.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Megatron is dead. We've talked about him on the podcast a lot. He's in the intro for the podcast. He's in the intro for Deer Camp Chronicles.
It's
Yeah.
kind of a complex story.
Yeah, it'll be good. We'll get into
Which
it.
I
for
think
sure.
we're finding out there's more to it now too. With
Yeah,
the
there's
video
a
from couple
There's
years
actually
ago.
some good possibility. I'll probably end up making a small video about it eventually.
Just because
But it's a
we have-
good
We
story.
have so much media about him.
Yeah, we'll get into that. If you're a Medina County hunter person, you've probably already seen Tate posting it everywhere, talking about how thanks to me missing and all that shit.
Long story.
Ethan killed a doe
Thursday.
night with his bow on film. And that, I believe that ends the deer killing for our crew this week. so
Kyle
far.
killed one on Friday.
Did Kyle kill on
at
Friday
the Hunt Club, yeah.
at the hunt club? Okay. I didn't know anything about that one, actually.
Do we want to go on a side rant about this for a second? Because we've had people having issues with deer butchering. And so the reason we haven't killed more does is because of the butchering issues. We butcher all the deer ourselves. Taking them somewhere is kind of impossible right now.
Yeah, so Gore took his Gore came in here this morning, eat breakfast. We did all right. We usually do our breakfast on Saturday and deer drive all day, but we'll get into that later. We kind of got away from that this year. We did breakfast today here Sunday at the shop. Chris was here. He took his meat from West Virginia to someone that makes a good. I won't even name drop him because I don't know who or what or when, but someone local that makes a good jerky or smoky that people enjoy. Not Roars. I know a lot of people like the Roars. It was somewhere else, but he got a lot of flack from the lady trying to order some meat to be made, and just the butcher shop thing in general has become a pain in the ass here in Northeast Ohio post-COVID. There's a lot of startup butcher shops that I've heard a lot of good things for, like Coach Biggs. A lot of people are starting to do better, but the day of driving in, dropping off your deer and saying, I want smokies, jerky, some ground, some roast, here's $200, you get it back in 5 days. I know some people are having that experience, but a lot of people aren't getting that experience. It's been very tough for people to find places to take care of their deer quickly, efficiently,
especially during gun season. And then you get the whole issue of not getting your meat back, and then we've gotten meat back from processors that's been shit, stinks, brown, gross. Yeah. Who knows what they're doing to it? So we don't exactly trust taking our deer to processors.
And that's not a knock on processors. I would trust it more for smokies, jerky, and stuff like that. Here's the problem: you take your deer to a processor, and you want 50 pounds of ground. I have no way of vetting A, if you're getting your ground, B, how much silver skin they're actually taking off of the ground. I feel a lot better when we do our own here.
Yeah.
It's just very time consuming.
Yeah, that's
what
I was going to say. So Kendall shot her buck on Tuesday. I was planning on shooting a doe or two this week, but just due to time constraints, we don't have time to butcher them because it takes one person to do a whole deer from a dead deer to in the freezer, probably like 3 or 4 hours total.
Yeah.
To package
and
it,
we ran out of space over here. We had deer laying on the ground. We need to get some more hooks. We have 2 hooks and one in the side garage. We need to get a third hook hanging, but
then how much deer meat can one person eat throughout the year? No, we eat way more than the average person, but Kendall shot that buck and we got 60 pounds of meat off of it.
Yeah, and
it's hard to eat 60 pounds of deer meat unless you're eating it 3 times a week.
Yeah, I think a lot of people we've actually covered this in podcasts a little bit. I know the days of dad goes out and kills a couple deer, family eats it all year are just going away. There's a lot of people out there that aren't willing to eat deer, a lot of wives, a lot of children that might not like the taste or the cooking. It's not as much of a staple of the American diet as it was back in the day.
And we're all firemen, and deer meat at the firehouse is a huge stigma for some people.
Yeah, some people love it. Some people will not eat it. Some people hate it. I sneak it in sometimes.
I won't take it in because we put a lot of hard work into
they don't appreciate it.
Deer, then they don't appreciate it, and they don't exactly like it, and they complain. So I won't take it in. So that's half the year right there where I'm not eating deer meat because I'm at work.
I think it's the lack of people knowing how to cook it.
Very much so.
Their dads used to throw a whole roast in a crock pot for 8 hours
Yes.
with pickle juice, and then it turns out like shit, and you can't eat it. It's tough. But like we cook it, we smoke it, we marinate it, we do all sorts of things to it. It turns out amazing.
Deer meat just has a stigma in the modern population.
I think, I'm going to show people. The purists are not going to like what I'm about to say, but sue me. I think deer meat, even the worst cuts. I'm talking a ham roast off of a 5-year-old buck. You marinate it properly, and you use a pellet smoker to slowly cook it, and then you can Isaac it up and sear it or crisp it up however much you want. But you slow cook it on a pellet smoker after a marinade. I haven't met a single person who says that meat's bad. They all love it. The problem is people try to cook venison like beef. Venison doesn't have any fat. You can't cut a steak and throw it on a charcoal grill or a Weber gas grill, sear it up on both sides, and expect your family to love it. I mean, I'll eat it like that all day long, but it's a different kind of meat that requires a different kind of cooking.
And I remember when we were younger and we didn't know what we were doing, and we got our deer back from the processor, and we'd throw it in a cast iron pan cold with some onions, and it would come out like nasty ass goose meat. Yeah, I feel like that's the experience that some people are having. Because if you cook it like that, it is going to have a taste.
Yeah, it just needs to be done properly, and through trial and error, and the fact that we butcher 20 deer a year and eat a lot here, that marinade you can marinate, and I marinated a couple different ways. We go Brazilian, which has been real famous. A lot of people have kind of picked up on our Brazilian marinade for venison.
McCormick Grill Master Brazilian.
I will also go like the smoky applewood sweet route from time to time, which is really good. And I very much like going like carne asada, mojito, lime direction. I'll squeeze lime juice all over that bitch and throw some tahini on it. Man,
you just have to.
And then like making tacos. I mean, we love deer meat,
and you have to think of it way different than beef. You're not getting a ribeye steak.
No, there's no fat. I mean, the fat on deer is bad. Cut it all off, throw it away. Not useful for anything but soap for smelly earth people who don't want to use real soap. I mean, it's bad. Like deer meat's bad.
It's a rancid
deer fat
or fat.
Deer meat is good.
Deer fat is bad. It's no good at all. So, yeah, there's your little rant.
There's my little rant about the deer meat. Yeah, that's pretty much
I mean, and I think. And we've also talked about this on the podcast numerous times, like avid listeners can be like, oh my God, here they go again. People are hunting for bucks. Everyone wants to kill their 4 or 5 year old buck. So not as many people are taking does. They don't have the room for all that meat. You kill a buck of that nature every 2 or 3 years. You're going to take 70, 80 pounds of meat and put it in your freezer. That's enough deer meat for one guy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like the guy, right.
So Freeman has the same problem. He shot that big buck this year. He's got a freezer full. He just has a small little family, and obviously his
keyword small. I mean, Freeman and his wife and baby are little fucking people. I mean, his wife weighs less in this bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, so they don't eat a lot of deer meat. So he simply shouldn't go out and shoot a doe.
And he hasn't. He wasn't involved in any of the deer driving stuff. Like I don't think he's targeting a doe because there's just no need for him to have one. I mean, that deer weighed more than him.
Yeah,
honestly, and he's got plenty of meat. I want to go through this week real quick before we get on our love-hate to continue on. I killed my doe Monday morning. I was sitting in the back stand. We were watching some videos in here while we were eating this morning. We've had a guy in the back stand 4 or 5 years opening day. It's absolutely perfect if you get a north wind. Deer are retreating to this massive bedding area on the neighbor's property. You're always going to see a ton of deer. We've had opportunities at all kinds of bucks from that stand. It's the best opening day gun stand you can imagine. And I went in telling Ethan that morning, I'm going in the first doe because the stand's been there for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, the stand's been there forever. So the deer know where it's at, which has kind of made bow hunting tough. These does will come in way upwind, 70, 80 yards upwind, and they're looking at you in the stand. So the first doe that did that to me this year, I said I was going to shoot, and I did. I got on film, everything worked. The problem was she was quartering towards me just a little bit, and my shot was just a little bit left, and with her quartering too and me being a little bit left, I literally blew through her back ham, out her rear end. She let out a roar. I mean, I'm shooting hand loads that Chris Toth made me, the drone guy, Skyhound drone
for
recovery.
450 Bushmaster. They are powerful.
250 grains at 2,200 feet per second.
And they're like a bonded copper.
Holy shit!
A full copper bullet, so there's no lead. So they don't. They just expand. They don't kind of explode.
Right. And it did some damage to this doe. Ballistics on that gun are great. I'm shooting the Ruger American.
Yeah. While we're talking about guns real quick, the internet is overwhelmed yet again.
350 Legends suck balls.
Every year.
I knew you were going to say
every year. Overwhelmed. Because people don't understand it's a small caliber gun. It's a 357 Magnum in a rifle, basically.
Someone commented on one of those posts I seen. It was Medina County Hunter. Someone commented the same thing we've said a few times on here. For years and years and years and years and years, Ohio was a simple state. 12-gauge slugs with Brennickys or SST Hornadies, whatever.
Yeah, rifle
and
slugs.
Your muzzleloader. 50 caliber muzzleloaders. Big, huge, giant bullets.
Why?
Energy being dispersed
widely
into that
overkill for deer.
Yeah, energy going into those deer and just blowing them up. They're used to deer just crumpling and dropping and massive blood trails.
And the 450 is pretty similar to that.
Yeah.
The 450 shoots about the same as a 12-gauge slug Sabo. Shoots the same
but
bullet.
Faster.
Yeah, but a little bit faster.
Now these 350s is the opposite.
And people are treating these 350s like a 30-06 that you would use in a different state.
Right.
A 30-06 is well and above.
4,000. The energy that comes from a 30-06.
I would imagine it's at least double, if not triple, what you're getting.
Because the speed is double a 350 Legend, probably close to. So that amount of energy going into the deer's body just causes disruption of vital organs. The 350 just punches through these deer and leaves a little tiny hole this big through a deer. Yeah, you hit a vital, it's going to die. But
people need to think of it more like handgun hunting, where you're actually shooting for the vitals and you're not getting the shock wave that you're getting from a high-powered rifle.
Culturally, culturally in Ohio, they just are so used to 12-gauge shoulder, crumple, dead deer.
And
let's go.
A lot of this, I don't know if people watch a lot of Western hunting, but the big deal right now, especially out west, is the high shoulder shot. with a high-powered rifle. So they're using a 300 Win Mag. They're hitting high shoulder. These deer are just crumpling.
Yeah.
Because of that shockwave that hit the shoulder blade.
Blow the lungs out.
And it disintegrates the insides of the deer.
Yeah.
You do that with a smaller caliber like a 350 Legend. It may be punching a hole just straight through and going all the way through and not hitting anything vital, or that shoulder blade may be stopping that bullet completely.
Yeah, there's medical things that, and if you're in the medical field, you're going to be like, yeah, obviously you know this. But if you're not a medical person, those, super fast Western rounds, or like a 450 or even a 12 gauge with all that energy coming in, you're popping diaphrams and blowing blood vessels out of the heart, and the lungs. You're creating pneumothoraxes in the lungs by not even hitting the vitals. There's a video that'll be in our deer camp video. Isaac's fiance Kendall, 30-yard shot, 450 Bushmaster frontal. When that bullet, and he films it at 120 feet per second or frames per second, just beautiful slow motion of the bullet entering the chest. I mean, the ripples on that deer's ass are measured in inches. The entire body,
entire deer,
in and out, and smoke. It's not smoke. It's heat from the lungs and the diaphragm. It's blowing out the hole, just causing massive damage to the internal organs of the deer.
Brutal.
Just emulsifies everything inside.
Yeah.
So when I gutted the deer and pulled the lungs out, they were literally just jello.
Right.
And she didn't even hit the lungs. She shot low, hit right through. It actually went right through the top of the heart and exited completely, like straight pass through. Not too much cavitation with the bullet, but the shock wave just went through the entire insides of that deer, and it ran 20 yards and died.
So for all you wimps that are grown-ass men shooting a 350 because it doesn't kick very hard, it's not going to do that to your deer. You might be able to shoot some of those heavier bullets and get it in the right spot, and you're going to have good stories. But when you see online and you hear your friends tell you, I shot this doe, no blood trail, couldn't find her, it was a perfect shot, it's because you're just literally putting one of these tiny little holes right through that deer's vitals, and it's not destroying anything. The transfer of energy is something that...
And the same thing also happens with the 450 Bushmaster at extended range. Once you get out,
slows it down.
Once you get out past 200 yards, that bullet slows down a lot, and you're back to poking a hole and doing only the damage that the bullet's doing.
Does the bullet start to tumble with a 450, you think?
So most people are shooting the Hornady Black or Hornady American Whitetail, and that's a ballistic tip bullet. So at close range, that thing explodes. At medium range, it will mushroom out, and it'll be perfect. That's what the bullet's meant to do.
Yeah.
But then once you start getting further range where that velocity really drops, it's literally just going to poke a hole through the deer.
Because I still, and we're going to talk about it with the Megatron story here in just a minute. When I hit that tree shooting at Megatron last year, I mean, it was probably an 80 or 90 yard shot maybe. That bullet's still in the tree. You can go see it to this day. I swear that bullet was tumbling already. It's in the tree sideways. Like, it's not.
Just
you would think that the bullet would go into the tree, spinning in a circle, and it would be, you'd see the ass end of the bullet. The bullet's in the tree sideways like this. Mm-hmm. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know. There's a chance I shot right through Megatron in a non-vital spot too, with no blood.
And it's just skimmed it.
There's a big chance of that because it is.
And the same goes for the 357 Magnum, the 44 Magnum.
Yeah, these people shoot these lever guns.
They're just handgun rounds.
Yes.
So longer, more powder.
That goes off of when I'm shooting my handgun, I'm using a hard cast bullet specifically meant to just punch through the deer and make a hole.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure those shots are perfect and at close range.
Yep.
But people aren't doing that with the rifles, obviously.
When you have a pistol like Isaac's on, you're bow hunting these deer. You got to hit them through
I've shot 2 deer with that 357. Watched them both drop, but the shots were 50 yards and 16 yards.
Yeah. Yep. So that was the story of my doe. Backtracking. Yeah. Nick killed a buck that we call the imposter. 134-inch 8-point.
Is that what he scored?
Yeah. I'm sure we will get into some more depth about Nick's season. There's a lot of stuff coming up about that. I don't want to talk all about it right now. He's in Mexico at the moment, so we'll talk more about Nick's season when he gets back from Mexico in a future podcast. But, I mean, it was a very good deer. He knew he was going to Mexico, and the farm he hunts gets pillaged during gun week. I think he had a little bit of, afterwards, shooter's remorse. But at the end of the day,
it's a 4-year-old 135.
Yeah, 4-year-old 135-inch buck in Ohio. I mean, he's killed mature buck now back to 3 years in a row. So, it's you got to factor all that stuff in. So, I mean, it was a good story. You'll see that in the upcoming next week's video, the Ohio Gun Camp, the Deer Shop Gun Camp. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it. He was hunting for a while a buck that we called Flyer 8. I got 2 sheds from him here. This is 22. This is 23. That deer was the buck he was hunting this week, and the imposter is almost exactly. We call him the imposter because the deer are about exactly the same, except for the imposter is maybe 5 to 7 inches smaller, and that's it. I think
flyer just had these crazy G2s,
bladed G2s with a kicker, but that doesn't fix your score any. So like the imposter buck also had great G2s. He just a little bit smaller. We believe they were both 4 years old too. So it's not like the imposter buck was a younger deer.
You gonna get your hands on him? You think be able to score him?
The flyer buck?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was just going to announce. I was just going to say the flyer buck ended up getting killed this week at that farm by one of the old gun hunters, which isn't a terrible thing. The old crowd, I'm glad to see the old crowd. Me and some of the guys local have talked about this. We're glad to see the old crowd still getting out. Every once in a while, they do kill a good buck. They hunt Nick's farm during gun season. They hunt it a lot differently than we hunted, obviously. They're
Mosiers.
Yeah, they're Mosiers and gun season, all this and that, little deer drives, they don't get out first thing, crack of dawn, none of that. But it's good to see an older guy from the group, the old crowd of Chatham, kill a nice one. Robin Wright killed that deer, the buck that we call Flyer.
Literally the good old boys of Chatham.
Yeah.
These guys are in their 60s and 70s now, probably.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And me and Nick have a great encounter that will be on a Deer Camp Chronicles episode 2 episodes from now. So, the West Virginia one's out right now when you're watching this. Next Sunday will be the Ohio gun season episode.
So everything we're talking about is going into the next episode.
Yep. And then the Sunday after that, I will have our archery hunting episode, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. There was a lot of good stuff that happened bow hunting this year. We didn't really kill any deer to feature an episode prior to all that stuff coming out, but I'm going to put a compilation together. Great hunt for the Flyer 8 that ended up dying this week in that video. Me and Nick had a good encounter. Lots of good footage. It was fun. I'll let you talk about Kendall's buck on Tuesday.
So this is kind of a 2-day story somewhat. We decided pretty much Sunday night that Kendall wanted to hunt the new property. So me and Kendall bought a property to build a house on. So it's 4 acres. It's local to here to our house. But it has some surrounding cornfields and woods and stuff, so it's huntable. It's a huntable 4 acres. I set up a little food plot. We put some bait out, set up a blind.
Pumpkins.
Yeah.
They love those.
I threw all the pumpkins from the house.
They loved them.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have to use pumpkins.
Go around and collect everyone's old rotten pumpkins.
So we decided we want to hunt at the new property. It was pretty cool. We're going to build our house there, family, blah, blah, blah. This one buck has been showing up. Spoiler alert, the buck she ended up killing.
Yeah.
We think he's a 3-year-old, I would guess, from the size of his body and stuff.
Not much in the rack department, but
no. He was a 100-inch 7-point to fast forward to the end. But this buck had been showing up. He's pretty much the only deer that's been daylighting there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like by a big field. So you either have the deer there or you don't. So we had a lot of deer, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then this buck almost daily. Opening day, afternoon, we got out there too late. We messed around here at the house too long. It was probably 3:30 by the time we got out there, and he was out there already.
Yep.
So we put a stalk on him through some neighboring fields, and I got some of this on video. Caleb will be able to show.
Well, I was actually, to go back to the day before, some of us were already in our stands, and we knew what they were doing, so my cell cans are going off. I'm like, the buck's there in daylight. Oh, he's feeding. And the camera's on video mode. Like, this thing's going to crumple at any moment. And then, like, time goes by, and then, like,
the camera is on video mode. I didn't check this. I didn't check the video. You requested those?
Yeah, it doesn't show it.
Doesn't show it. He was right out of the frame.
Well, he was in the frame, just the video stopped before. But he
was standing.
I'm like looking at it. I'm like, oh man. And then I text him like, why aren't you shooting? Are you gonna kill? Like, what's the story? And he's like, oh, we're not there yet. God damn it.
Well, I think when you texted me is when I was watching him through binoculars from the road.
Yeah.
So he's 300 yards back or whatever in the field. We decided to put a little stalk on him. We crawled. Kendall cut her hand. It was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
And she got down on
She learned about deer hunting this week. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, she got down on the gun. It would have been 115-yard shot. Pretty easy shot. She's an exceptional shot when it comes to the gun.
She grew up shooting trap and stuff with her dad.
She grew up being a shotgun hunter.
Yeah, so she's not like inept to guns. This isn't the first time she's had a rifle. Or
no, and she shot the guns a bunch.
We are terrible shots, so everyone's better than us.
Because I'm the only one that goes out and shoots for fun. You guys just shoot to hunt.
I shoot my bow for a lot.
We're going to talk about that when you're done.
Yeah, so I go out and shoot a lot for fun. She shoots with me a lot in the backyard, so she was confident. She gets down on the gun, laying down. I'm filming over her shoulder. It's perfect. And he just walks out of the field. For whatever reason, he's out there for an hour.
Well, he's always out. He was always out there early. Like, it was his first stop. He bedding somewhere. It's first stop every day.
So he was out there. We sat the rest of that. We were able to sneak over to our blind, sat the rest of the night, didn't see any deer. Following day, same thing happens. But he is out there at 1:30.
Yeah. I'm telling you, he was betting.
We haven't even gotten ready to go hunting yet.
Yeah.
He's out there at 1:30. We seen him on the.
This is Deer Gun Week, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Place that is.
I mean,
not to give anything away, but it is the heavily hunted place around here.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad.
He's right there.
Amazon.
What was that? Anyways, next day, he gets out there at 1:30. He obviously beats us out. We were watching the cameras. We're like, well, we're still going to go out. Who knows what will come. There is other bucks in the area. We go set up. We're there probably for an hour, and I look up, and all of a sudden he's coming straight out of the field. No idea where he came from.
Yeah, isn't that
weird? I think he was bedded in the CRP, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he's coming straight at us. I don't know what's going on.
That's your fiance.
Oh, okay. But he's coming straight at us through my little food plot. It's about an acre, I would say. I planted winter rye and put bait out. He's coming straight at us, pretty much straight to the blind. I'm filming him. I'm trying to put my earplugs in because if anybody film hunts and they don't put their earplugs in when someone is next to you shooting a gun,
God,
it is deadly. And this is a 450 Bushmaster AR
with
short barrel
with a muzzle brake.
Yeah, so it would have killed me. So I'm trying to film, and I put my earplugs in, so that you'll see in the video it's all shaky. And then I get on him. He comes exactly. Kendall, she's holding freehand, which was pretty good. She's super confident in the shot. He lifts his head up, wham, 30 yards, frontal shot. Hits a little low, which I probably should have told her to aim a little higher because gun stuff, if you're shooting a gun that's sighted in for 100 yards at 30 yards and it's an AR, it's going to shoot low. Hits a little low, directly through the heart. He almost runs into the blind, does a somersault, and then dies at 20 yards.
Nice.
And I was able to videotape the whole thing.
120 frame. We've been working on that. That's something.
Yeah, trying to get these shots in slow-mo. And it's something we're going to have to play with because we don't know if YouTube's going to like this shot because it is so brutal.
Fuck it.
She shoots. You can see the bullet, the shockwave. And then I'm able to stay on him as he's running around. He does a somersault. There's like blood flying 15 feet up in the air.
Love it.
And then he goes down. And that was her first deer.
Was she cold? How'd she do with the cold? It was 20 degrees.
No, she was fine. She was bottled up. We're in a blind. She was fine.
Yeah.
Probably a blanket around her feet.
Yeah,
stuff.
she definitely had a blanket. I had two angles. You'll have the whole thing. You'll be able to see the whole thing on the next video. So that was pretty awesome. And he died. She shot him on our property. He died on our property. We didn't have to worry about neighbors. We didn't have to worry about anything.
It's pretty good. I'm actually excited because we're gonna make a hard late season push at your property. Yeah, some of these deer that get bumped around.
There's still bucks showing up at night.
There's killable bucks there. Well, not killable bucks. There's bucks we would kill there, 100%. So we're going to get you set up late season there.
I mean, it's set up perfect.
Yeah.
You just got to keep at it, basically. So that deer's dead, 100-inch 7-point.
I can see it laying on the ground over there.
She's going to get him mounted. It'll be cool.
Yeah, I have to.
Probably. I don't know if we're going to be doing much hunting there in the future once there's a house. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be tough. It'll be once that situation happens, it'll be like early and late.
Next year, it's definitely getting a food plot and some screening and a little bit more effort into it to see.
Some screening there would be cool.
Yeah, because I didn't acquire the property until
after the season.
I think
opened.
it was November.
Yeah.
By the time it was said and done, so I was able to just shoot some winter rye in real quick. What deer's on the screen?
The wolf, young. Yeah,
we talked about him enough.
I know.
So that was that's been my gun season so far. I've gone out a couple more times, just seen small bucks and does because that's all we have around here. I'm gonna go out one more time tonight and maybe shoot a small buck.
I had a good hunt Wednesday. I hunted a new stand that we acquired on a property from a neighbor. Blah 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 blah. Talked about in the videos. First time ever sit in the stand, virgin sit. Saw deer everywhere. Just none of the ones I wanted to shoot, small bucks and stuff. But that night, Matt killed his first buck at his house. It's a property. It's hard to. So Matt has been hunting this property for maybe 5 or 6 years now. He's laid down some great footage from this property, and I haven't been able to tell the story proper because it's always been just a little piece here, a little piece there. Late season, he
did shoulder shoot a
monster. 2 or 3 years ago, he shoulder shot a 160. We didn't find it. Terribly sucked. Bad situation. The years prior to that, he had close encounters with a bunch of 130, 140s. He had some trail camera videos back in the day of like literally near 200-inch bucks.
180s.
Yeah, like massive bucks. He ended up buying the property, half of it. He ended up buying half the property, moving into a house there. He's renovating the whole house. It's an old farmhouse. He's renovating all of it. One problem he does have is the neighbors bought there's a new group of neighbors that bought the other half of the property, and they kind of.
It was basically 15 acres that got split up.
So those neighbors. for lack of better terms, just they're hillbillies, and it makes the hunting a little bit more difficult than it used to be. Back when you could hunt all 15 and there was just a couple of ladies living there, the hunting was great, especially during the rut. It's a small wooded area surrounded by literal thousands of acres of ag. So during the rut, Matt had this property.
Yeah, the deer will sit in there until they get bumped out. When you have neighbors, and granted, it's neighbors' property, they can do whatever they want. They have a fire pit in the back. And they always have bonfires and so literally.
And we love to do that stuff too. Yeah. It's just when it comes to this exact moment of talking about deer hunting, it kind of sucks to have.
50 yards from Matt's stand and food plot.
Right.
There's a bonfire ring that maybe they're going to have a bonfire at tomorrow night and screw up your hunting. But
so Matt has had some decent bucks showing up on camera all year. He did a little bit of hunting here and there. Matt also had a baby this spring, and he does the fireman babysit thing just like I do. So he's not being able to hunt as much as he used to. He had some bucks showing up that were 3, possibly 4 years old, and they all scored like 110 to 120. There was nothing that was like, wow, holy shit. He did have a good rut hunt where he saw an unknown buck chasing does across the field. Big
wide buck. Right?
Yeah, big wide buck, he said. Wasn't able to get any footage of it. Matt tried this. Matt bought a new camera this year, fancy camera to try and film some stuff. I know he did it for his baby too, but he hasn't been able to get the footage on. I don't think he's been able to get as much footage as he's wanted, obviously. But that's part of self-filming. We've beat that to death. But on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday. I can't remember. And we'll get Matt to maybe.
He daylighted Tuesday.
The deer showed up during the season.
Yeah, during this week, the deer showed up. I think he daylighted Tuesday night.
Because he was at
work. Yes. So the buck daylighted Tuesday night. Matt was unable to hunt. He was at work, on shift at the fire station. And we recognized right away it was a good buck. And then he daylighted
in the
morning Wednesday.
When Matt was already home.
Matt was home from work. They get off work. I think they get a 6:30.
Off 6 a.m. and then he lives 5 minutes from the firehouse.
So Matt was home, but he had his baby. 6:30 in the morning, buck daylighted again on his property. He was planning on hunting that evening. His wife worked until like 4, can be home by 4:30. That buck daylighted at like 3:45, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, a couple hundred yards from his
third time in 2 days. Daylighted again. He's got his baby. Can't go out. We're all like, God damn, don't you know your wife knows it's deers? And he's all, Matt's like, well, she just took a week off, so I go to West Virginia. All this stuff. We're like, we know. Just, man, we're sitting, because we can all see each other's cameras. So we're just like, oh my God, there's
142.
142 and change buck daylight in your backyard right now, and you can't go.
Halfway through gun season.
Right. So his wife gets home 4:30. He literally just runs out to his stand. I think he was hunting his beast stand. Beast sticks.
I don't remember
mobile
which
set.
One he was hunting.
Ran up, got in the tree.
Bumped some does out. He's like, oh shit, I bumped those does.
Alberta Clipper. Snowing like a motherfucker.
So he has a GoPro.
And he's got a GoPro.
Fucking GoPro.
Yeah, his fucking GoPro wasn't able to capture what we needed. That's a rant for another day. We'll talk about GoPros later. But he's in the stand. Some does come. He bumps some does come through. It's like 4:45, 5 o'clock. He'd only been, or maybe a little bit after 5. He'd been in the stand for like 20, 30 minutes. He just happens to look over to his left. Bam, 30 yards. That buck's standing there. He shoulders his 450 Bushmaster.
Boom, dead.
Blows the front off of him.
Wheelbarrows
for 5 yards and dead. So Matt's in the stand 30 minutes, kills 142. And
biggest deer we've had in the shop this year.
It is the shop winner now. It overtook Freeman for biggest buck in the shop. Matt hunted 20 minutes during gun season this year. Killed a deer that only showed up for 2 days. Beautiful thing. Awesome trail camera pictures. He brought it over here. We had a little party. I mean, it's all everything we love to do in life.
Yeah, you'll see a whole bunch of the deer. You won't see much of the hunt, but you see a whole bunch of the deer in the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a beautiful thing. And then was it Thursday or Friday?
Thursday
night, Ethan went out.
With my bow.
With his bow. It was on the tail end of that snowstorm. So the snow had stopped, but it picked up again. We'll kind of get into that. But Ethan went out with his bow, and I'll let you go on that one.
Yeah, so I wanted to use my bow. Obviously, there's not really any mature bucks around, so I knew I was going to kill a doe that night. Hunting over corn in my same blind that I've killed the last 4 deer out of.
Our trailer blind that we've talked about a little bit.
Got the new Matthews lift out. Wanted to shoot at 120 frames per second. Nice snow falling. Deer walks in. Whammy it. Put it through the guts a little bit. It was a downhill 1/4-2 shot. So I clipped the front both lungs and then also went out the back ham and took guts with it. But it ran, 50, 60 yards, if that.
Well, and the problem was, and this is something worth talking about a little bit, he shot it and it started dumping snow.
Yeah.
So
we had
already a bad blood trail because the guts were pulled out. Even though he knew the deer was dead, But, like, we're talking an inch of fresh snow on the ground, powder, and we're kicking leaves over to find blood. Found blood in a few places. Mm-hmm. Then Luke was just doing the flashlight shine.
Yeah, he just happened to find it, which was good.
Yeah, which is good.
Went 50, 60 yards. That was about it.
Got that shot in 120 frame, which is nice. Little bow action in 120 frame. So we have 3 kill shots in 120 frame. Just one deer didn't die.
Mm-hmm. And for people that don't know what the 120 frame is, it's a slow motion.
That's basically that Josh Bomar super slow, perfect.
Yeah.
Like.
So we can slow it way down, and it still looks cool. It doesn't get that jittery look when you slow down regular footage.
We film the majority of our actual action footage and hunting footage and in the shop in 29, which is 30 frame per second. That is what gives you a natural feel. There's a little bit of blur, and it feels natural to the human eye. Like movies are all filmed in usually like 24 or 30 frame per second. That's what movies are filmed in, except for slow motion scenes. So that's why we try to do that.
Yeah, in order to get real slow mo, you have to shoot at a high frame rate.
Yep. But
which has its own difficulties.
It takes the lights away. So, like, if it's getting dark and you start shooting in higher frame rate like that, it's real dark.
So the higher frame rate you shoot, the higher shutter speed you have to shoot.
So it's not open long enough.
It collects a lot less light. So basically, we get until about sunset being able to shoot with that. Then the last 30 minutes, you have to go back to regular.
Yep. But it is great for review. It's great to be stationary with it. So, like, it's hard. If you're a cameraman, you have to be real still holding it when you're in 120 because, like, movement doesn't help.
Yeah, I had it on a tripod. I just clicked it and then made it focus. But, like, I thought I hit high on my shot until we watched it.
The angle was all good. The deer, it was just quartering a little bit, and when it shot, the deer dropped a little bit to make it quartering more.
You were a little bit. You were kind of quick on your shot because you'd already been busted by a couple.
Twice, yeah. By
you needed to be about 6 inches further forward with your actual shot.
Yeah.
Right under that shoulder would have been perfect, but regardless, the deer died.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's hanging in the shop.
It's hanging
right behind the camera.
So, yeah, I mean, it was a good week. Chris Toth stopped by. I briefly talked about how he came in with the hand loads for us for the 450s, but he stopped by with his buck, and the one day we were here fucking around, he said that he hasn't been getting a lot of calls this week for drone flights. Like, so during the bow season, during the rut, those good hunting days, he'll get 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 calls a night if it's a good night, people looking for a drone. This week, with the good temperatures and the people with the guns, it doesn't seem like many deer have been getting away. I mean, they've just been dying.
Now, some of that may have to do with the clientele that's hunting. Maybe they don't care enough to spend $400 to find a doe that they wounded.
I would believe 100% you are correct. We know that there are groups of guys around this area that do no bow hunting at all or very little, and they come out during gun season like now and have big drives and big camps and do all this stuff, and they're just definitely not calling a drone to find a wounded deer.
Yeah, they shoot a...
Well, you have a big deer drive. Deer runs out. You shoot it. Maybe it's a 120. You shoot this 120-inch buck that's running 80 yards in front of you. You think you hit it. Maybe there's a little bit of blood. They're not calling a drone for that deer.
We got places to be.
Yeah, there's no way.
We got to go to the next drive, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't that big of a buck. And that's not right, but it's reality.
It's hunting culture, and it's fine. We've all been there. It's just different.
We're going to talk about that here in just a minute when we get to the meat and potatoes of this podcast. But I also want to talk about Megatron. So let's tell the Megatron story. Let's tell the finality of the Megatron story real quick, and then we'll move on to our love hates of gun season.
This may turn into a video at some point as well.
Yeah. So last year, and we have talked about it a lot. We always make these little jokes, Megatron this, Megatron that. He's on our board, and I missed him. So last year, during the rut, Nick, Tyler, Tate, they're all hunting some of the same farms. They were getting, Nick started getting videos on his trail cameras of a buck limping around with one really good side, one wonky side, 150 class mature animal limping around with a peg leg.
Broken shoulder. Basically.
Broken shoulder on the right front. Peg leg, front right shoulder, just all messed up. Didn't think a ton about it because it's a secondary farm. There was lots of stuff going on. He got 4 or 5 videos of this deer. They never really made an attempt to hunt him. They knew he was a kill. They knew he was a good buck, but they didn't know if they'd be able to pattern all this and stuff. They were after some other deer, namely. That deer on Thursday of gun season, I know we've talked about this plenty, showed up here at our farm.
So rewind just a little bit.
Well, I'll go back to that stuff.
He did show up once on our farm before that.
November 1st. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So he showed up once on our farm. We had a couple reveal. So
yeah,
not to complain about reveal. A couple reveal pictures of him literally laying in a scrape.
It didn't make him look very big either. He looked mature, but
facing straight away, and his messed up side was kind of facing the camera. So we're like, oh, we got this wonky buck Showed up for 2 pictures and he was gone. Never connected the dots.
He literally, there was a November snowstorm.
It was November 1st.
Yeah, November 1st snowstorm. And he laid down in the mega scrape, which on the north side is a place I've had a camera forever. It was the same camera, same tree every year. I put a scrape there. He laid down in, he just laid in. The scrape was like, was wet from piss and all that stuff. So it was like not, the snow wasn't or the snow was melted only in the scrape and the snow
laid in it.
He just walked in, sniffed it, laid in it.
And he did like that 15
rubbed his
minute,
balls in it,
15 minute sleep the deer do.
Yeah, and this was 11 o'clock.
And the angle and the picture quality, we didn't think much of. We saw that he was probably a mature deer, but the rack wasn't impressive from the angle we had. And we kind of moved on.
And you can't plan on those random, like a deer like that shows up on the farm and then leaves. You never get pictures of him again. You can't make any plans for those random, if I was in the tree stand that day, I probably would have shot him, but we can't make a plan for a deer that just shows up during the rut.
Fast forward to gun season.
And they were pictures, so we didn't know he was the wounded peg leg buck. Fast forward to gun season, we start getting, on Thursday at gun season.
It was Wednesday.
Wednesday at gun season, I'm laying on Isaac's couch in here at the farmhouse, and we start getting Spartan cell cam videos of this buck peg legging around with a big rack, and we realize that we start putting pieces together. We realize it's the buck that Nick had at the other farm 2.1 miles away, and it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and he's out there walking around chasing does in daylight, hitting scrapes, chasing does, hitting corn piles.
It was one of those mature deer.
Happens every year.
Like spaniels. Gun season rutting.
Just like spaniels.
So first week of December, these big deer start rutting because I don't know if they're chasing yearlings around or they just have their harem and does and a couple of them are in heat, something.
Well, and I think the younger 1, 2, maybe even 3-year-old bucks are just worn out. Their rut, they've accomplished what they've wanted. They've already fucked, and they're hungry and they're tired. Mm-hmm. But like the older bucks know.
Well, and to throw the unnatural part into this is there's been a couple days of gun hunting already. These deer are getting pushed around. There's new deer, new bucks, new doe. These bucks are seeing new areas, new does, new bucks, new scrapes. So they're kind of getting riled up.
Yep.
From the hunting, from the pressure.
So this gift was just handed to us on a plate. I went out like 2 o'clock, probably 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
You never had a plan work more perfectly. Deer showed up on camera. I'm going to go hunt this stand.
I had a good win for it. Yeah, good win for the stand. I walk out there, get in my stand, right at last light. Here he comes, peg legging through the woods. And I let him chase around does, and he was fighting off 3 younger bucks. There was a couple younger bucks that were also in there fucking around, making scrapes. The footage is dark because I'm filming in 30 frame with my camcorder. Shot was like 80, 90 yards. After he fucked around for a while, I finally decided, you know what? Now's my time to take a shot. I did the typical, we'll talk about this a lot in the offseason probably, reviewing the footage. I shot when he was still walking, and I don't know why I did that. In my head, I thought he was stopped, and I pulled the trigger, but it just wasn't the case. The video clearly shows he was still walking when I shot. He did buck like he got hit. I ended up shooting at him 2 more times because he didn't know what happened.
One of those shots, you center punched a 6-inch diameter tree.
Big as this kill bottle here. Center punched a tree.
Freaking mashed it.
Came back here to the shop. We didn't know if my first shot, we didn't know what had happened. So I came back here to the shop, got the fellas, went out there. Couldn't find any. Well, we did find blood from a different deer.
Yeah, that's a whole nother weird thing.
Didn't find any blood from him. Can't tell exactly what happened. Found my bullet in a tree. Just massive depression. Later that night and into the next morning, they get pictures of him at that farm 2 miles away again.
So he pieced out.
Done.
Gone. 2 miles away.
We did a hard push for his sheds. We knew he was injured. We knew he was in this farm late season. We did a hard push for his sheds multiple times. Found some other deadheads and stuff, but never found his sheds. Weren't sure if he lived. Fast forward to this summer. It was probably July. Just driving the bean fields every night. One night I'm driving this bean field, not far, on this farm, and I just happened to tiny. There's large bean fields everywhere. This is a tiny shit bean field with weeds growing in it. Looked over, and he's just standing there at like 80 yards, staring at my truck.
Like gold.
Yeah, glowing gold. Pull up the video camera.
Is this the bean field closest to where he was killed?
No.
Right there?
No, it's the closest to house.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
He wasn't killed there.
He wasn't killed there. He was killed closer to us.
Yeah.
But regardless, holy shit, well, at first I just saw giant buck, and I'm like, oh, one side's bigger than the other. Maybe it's Megatron. And he starts just, his wonky legs all messed up. Like,
gnarly brows.
Yeah, holy shit. And this buck looked huge in velvet.
Well, if you're watching the podcast, he's the buck in the intro.
He's in the buck in the intro that looks huge, and he's limping around, just massive in velvet. Like he screams 170-inch giant in velvet.
That's another, I'll talk about this once we get to his score.
And then, so then we kind of make a note of it, make plans to do some stuff. Later, next couple weeks, Ethan ends up seeing him too. He's out there in that bean field again. So We go in with a couple cell cameras, mineral, we carry some minerals in the woods, dump some minerals on an old stump that we'd used in the past but haven't used for a while. A couple different places, actually. But this one particular one, within like 2 or 3 days, bam, he shows up, limping around in daylight, smoking these minerals, just all these trail camera videos of him.
And basically he takes up residence.
Yeah, and he's not, and we can tell that his leg had gotten worse from the year before.
He's not moving well.
The knee, he got hit by a car because when I was feeling his body when he was here, his shoulder was out of socket. You can feel bones above meat. It was not right. The shoulder just wasn't right. There was bones above meat, and his knee, in all the videos, his right knee, front knee, is completely jello. The leg he puts any weight on, the knee just kicks out 2 feet. Like, it's a very ugly, painful looking walk, but he's done it for years. Get a bunch of videos of him in the summertime. Around velvet peeling time, he kind of disappears. They readjust at this farm. It is their secondary farm, so they readjust on some rut sign come late October. Took a couple days, ended up getting him on camera again. A lot of daylight videos of him, but it was hard to hunt. They ended up, I don't even know if they ended up getting a new stand. They were trying to get a stand in the right place, couldn't get a stand. I can't remember if they got one up or not. But there was a lot of other stuff happening, so he really wasn't the deer they were focusing on mainly at this point. But he was still 2.1 miles from me, so I'm out of the picture here. Yes, they're good friends of ours, but we don't fuck each other's wives. We don't hunt each other's farms. There's rules here in the world. So this deer is living in there and he's not moving far. We haven't had him. None of the neighbors that had him in the past seem to have had him. He wasn't moving very far. A lot of stuff happens. Nick kills his buck. Tyler has a baby. The morning that Tyler's baby was born, I was in his driveway picking up the gator from his house. We're giving a lot away, but deer's dead. I'm getting the gator from Tyler's house. Nick had shot his buck. I had to go help him get out of the woods. Tyler's leaving. His truck's running in the driveway. His wife's in labor, 4 centimeters, going to the hospital. And that buck is hitting a scrape 100 yards away from where I'm standing in daylight during gun season, Monday of gun season, using his bad, broken, depleted leg to rub out a scrape. And there's just nothing we could do about it. It just is what those is. Fast forward to that night, Tyler's brother kills him.
Yeah.
Comes in. Tyler's brother, Tate, kills him. Comes in. He had a giant corn pile out. Came in with another buck in the area. They got no fight. They were fighting. Tate had a 50-yard shot.
The smaller, less mature buck was beating his ass.
Beating his ass, though, yeah. That's a story for another day. Smokes him. He dies. Nick goes over, helps him drag it out of the woods. Bring it over here. Get to tape him up. Get to put our hands on him. The Megatron story comes to an end.
But it's funny because Megatron's body was probably
smaller than any deer that's been in the shop today.
2.5-year-old deer body size.
You can move him with one arm.
And that's another thing. So his rack, especially in the summer videos, looks so impressive.
Huge.
Like 170, 180-inch deer. He ended up scoring 151.
But his one side, what did his one side score?
72 or something?
No, the small side.
No, 56?
Yeah, something.
Yeah, so he had a 50-inch side and a upper 70 or mid-70 side. If he was equal on both sides, he'd be 165,
and
170.
if his rack matched his, like if he had a body that would match the size of his rack.
Right.
So his rack looks so massive because his body was so small, which we've seen that time and time in the past.
So doing what we do, we trying to figure out what deer this was prior to all of this story.
Yeah, I'm not convinced any of this is
We
true.
don't know how we obviously we'll never be able to prove anything. We had a couple deer here on our farm that he could have been solid mainframe 10 points in the 2020, 2021 era. We had some lopsided deer, like 4 or 5 on one side, 2 or 3 on the other that were mature in the 21, 22 year era. Could have been him. There was a big split G2 non-typical buck. He was only probably in the 130s the year you missed him, 2020 here on our farm, that we believe moved to that area 2 miles away and became a giant that was known as Freddy Krueger. There was a mature deer with junk, split twos, crazy brow tines.
Broken leg
that got hit by a car in 2021.
and shot maybe.
Shot, hit by a car, all these things. They found his sheds on this farm that we're talking about. He was a 180 class non-typical giant buck in 2021 that had a major limp and broken arm. Is it possible that deer was also the one we had our encounters with now in 2023 and 2024? It is possible. It would make him 8-9 years old potentially.
Which is possible.
And he's living in a heavily pressured area. But so we don't know. It's a romantic story. I mean, there's no way of proving it, so we can tell it the way we want, I guess. That, you know, it's possible that this deer, this Megatron buck that Tate ended up killing, was a 9-year-old Northeast Ohio legend.
As with a lot of our deer, the deer from year to year can be speculation.
Yeah.
A lot of times they have the characteristics that look exactly the same. So we can pretty much definitively say this is the same deer. But unless they really have something that you can pick out, you can't always 100% say.
Now, the reason we think that it is that deer is because of the injury to the leg. But that's not something that's uncommon in this area.
And unless they have a characteristic. Like Hook, we could always tell with Hook because of his characteristic rack. The Gimp we had a couple years back that had 3 legs, we could obviously tell with him.
Right.
And he's a deer that grew 80 or 90 inches in 1 year, which is, I still think, incredible.
Which deer are we talking about?
Gimp. Not Gimp. Stanky. Yeah.
Stanky leg. Was
another 3-legged deer.
Yeah, so he had a swollen front right knee. Stanky leg did.
So he went from a 50-inch little 6
Yeah, he was a 6 with no brows, like a 6 point with no brows, and this stupid leg that we just felt bad for this deer. Let him walk around the farm all year.
To boom 138.
Yeah, well, next year he's 138-inch 8 point. I mean, beautiful, heavy, tall racked buck with the same leg. We're like, Jesus. I mean, he literally gained 80 inches.
Which is incredible.
So we don't know. Romantically, could be a 9-year-old legend from Ohio. Unromantically, it's at least a 5-year-old 151-inch buck. So, I mean, it doesn't
impressive
matter.
Buck. So that's the story of Megatron.
That's the story of Megatron.
The last thing, Megatron, how he got his name and that blood that we were talking about. So he wasn't named until the night that Caleb missed him.
Yeah.
We called him Megatron because there was a little doe limping around bleeding.
Yeah.
And we don't know why. We don't know if it was. It didn't look
she
like
obviously
it was shot.
probably got shot or something.
We got a video.
Yeah.
And then Megatron was like the next video.
Yeah.
So and then blood.
We made jokes in the shop that Megatron did it to this doe.
And I did end up killing that doe.
Yeah.
In muzzleloader season.
So we don't know if it was wounded or whatever. But there was a little doe running around bleeding with Megatron.
Yeah.
So that's why we called him that.
I'm trying to get Tyler out tonight, so when this airs, Tyler might have a buck on the ground. We have a deer to kill tonight.
Yeah, we still have an evening to hunt, so who knows what could happen.
So actually, now that we're an hour in, let's talk about the love-hate with deer season, or deer gun season. So, I mean, I have a list of things that I love and a list of things that I hate here. Number 1, deer gun season, the camaraderie we get with our friends, neighbors, people around the woods hunting. That's the best part about deer gun season. It's tradition in Ohio. People are meeting up at diners. I mean, all the stuff that comes with it.
We're drinking beer at night. We're butchering deer.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a big breakfast this morning.
It's a fun time of year. I enjoy doing deer drives every once in a while. It doesn't look like we're going to do any this year. We've had a lot of success doing some deer drives in the past. We've made a lot of videos that the audience actually loves. The deer drive videos do good on YouTube, but this year is just a year that the deer drives aren't really seeming very practical.
And so it's one of the only times where we can like transform back to the days of old.
Yeah.
Where this is the 50s, 60s. People are doing these deer drives, having a ball.
Yep.
Everything else when it comes to hunting is kind of gone past that. All the technology, and then we do all the filming and all the trail cameras and blah, blah, blah.
The big part of the next thing is managing the deer. That's something that we love to do. This during deer gun season week here, there's a deer camp atmosphere all week long here in the shop and around the area. I mean, it's beautiful. There's not for our group on this side of the table because we can't shoot worth a shit, but like the efficiency of being able to kill a deer during deer gun season, the fact that Chris Toth isn't getting called for drones.
And it is cool driving around seeing bucks hanging out of the back of pickup trucks. You can still drive through our town and see a giant buck hanging from a tree.
There is one right now
in the center of town.
Yeah. That buck, this buck right here that I'm holding in my hands is hanging from a tree in the center of town right now.
On two interstates.
And I love it. Yeah, I mean, that part of deer gun season is amazing. It's a good thing. It's part of our culture. It's a big part of our video series, even though we don't like. Maybe that's not. It's kind of funny. We're known for our gun hunting and deer camp antics, even though that might not be our favorite part about what we do. But the hate side of deer gun season, it's hard as a guy, as guys who manage some farms. Our own farm,
we
our
put
friend's
so
farm.
much time and effort into
so much time and effort and money, and watching deer go from 1 to 2 to 3 years old, and patterning deer, and all the things we love about the bow hunting 21st century culture and trail cameras and building history. During this week, all of that literally just gets put on a hold and crisis happens, and then you start picking up the pieces the week after. There's going to be deer, and I know a lot of people can, half our audience is going to be like, fuck you guys for thinking that way, and the other half's going to be like, oh my God, you're talking to my soul. But there's going to be deer that we have watched, like this, I'm holding one right here. There's going to be deer that we have spent years watching from stand, trail camera videos.
Passing them while you're hunting.
You got them at 20 yards, you're passing them. These deer that you come to respect, and maybe they're 3-4 years old, and next year they could be that 150-inch buck that you hang on your wall forever that means something to you. All these deer growing up that we've watched for their whole lives, there's a lot of those deer that are going to be wiped off the face of the planet. They're going to
be pushed out of a thicket and shot by somebody their first time hunting this year.
And that is fine.
It's just sad.
Sad, yeah, right. Like you don't. It's like losing a football game. Yeah, like the world's not over. You lost the game. The world's not over, but it's still sad about it.
Yeah, and you feel happy for the person that shot it. I mean, they went out and did it.
Yeah, we live in this little microcosm here because this is a podcast for the future, and we'll definitely hammer this one out here somewhat soon, probably. But with the outfitter that moved in a couple years ago and then left, the outfitter killed an exorbitant amount of bucks. I mean, 26 the 1 year, I think 15 the next.
And all 1.5 to 3 years old.
Yeah, so we lost locally within a mile of where we're sitting and where we hunt and where we love and spent 30 of our years managing deer, loving everything about everything we do. We lost 47 bucks, 48 bucks in 2 years.
Immature deer.
And so that has a ripple down effect.
And a huge problem with that is the efficiency of hunters these days. If you go out and set up a corn pile and hunt it for a week, you can go shoot a 1.5, 2.5, 3.5-year-old deer pretty much 100% of the time, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have your opportunity. You will have a 100% opportunity at killing a 3.5-year-old buck.
So that leads to say with this outfitter, the only thing that was helping us was the limited amount of hunters that were doing that. So you can only get it done by 10 hunters. That's who's hunting around here. Fast forward to that outfitter coming in. He takes 40 guys out to do that.
Yep.
They are shooting 40 bucks.
Yep. And not does.
No, they're not shooting does. You don't come to Ohio.
I know they did kill some does, but no one's paying an outfitter to go to Ohio and shoot a doe over a corn pile.
No way.
I mean, it's not happening.
So our one thing we had going in our favor was the limited amount of hunters doing that got wiped out, and then there was a unlimited amount of hunters coming in and shooting those deer. Unlimited amount.
Yeah, I would argue just a little bit that it wasn't a limited amount of hunters. We still had, prior to the outfitter, there was heavy pressure around here, but we had a structure of bucks that could handle it a little bit better. 1 or 2 over 5, 3 or 4 between around 4 years old, 5 or 6 deer throughout the year on camera, 3 years old. Now it's a bunch of 1-year-olds, 2 or 3 2-year-olds, 2 or 3 3-year-olds, 0 4+ because they got wiped and deer died.
Not to mention the property that this happened on was a historical sanctuary that led to some hunting, but the people that were hunting it were very, very
picky.
Yeah, and then it just went to just boom.
Yeah.
So the people that are listening to this from
genocide of bucks in our area happened prior to this year. The outfitter is finally closing up his doors and gone. He got hit with his 40th fucking criminal court case in the last 10 years.
So the people that are listening to this maybe from those big buck states of Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, imagine someone coming onto your farm and shooting every immature buck
for 2 years.
47
of them.
Yeah,
it did a lot
what
to
your hunting is left with.
Yeah, it did a lot to our hunting. And
Not to mention we were shooting some of the mature deer, so then they were
right.
all gone.
Yeah, so every year we would take 1 or 2 4+-year-old bucks, and then the first time hunters, Ethan's first buck, Kendall, you got a couple younger bucks to get killed. We'll be admitted.
I don't know why we're ranting about it. It has nothing to do with gun season. This was just
so that brings in to this year. So now gun season comes along. We are dealing with a little bit of a depleted pool of bucks.
It's almost like we had CWD around here without the does being killed.
Yep, CAWD or EHD with just the bucks.
Yeah.
So then gun season comes in. Everyone wants to kill their buck. They're allowed. I mean, everyone wants to kill their buck, and when they do, then you're left with even less bucks. Naturally, all this area will rebound.
We'll be all right.
From a landowning, managing aspect of things, it's sad to see some of your 3, like Spindles is the buck that I passed 4 times this year. I had him in range 4 times on camera. He hasn't been on camera in 3 days. He's probably dead. Maybe he's not. Maybe he'll show up. It'll be great for next year because he'll finally be 4 years old and a buck we can target.
We still have proof of life of the 10. from a couple nights ago.
Yeah, I don't
know if he was there last night.
I've passed the 10 twice. Isaac's passed him kind of once.
Not really, but
I mean, I had him within 5 yards twice in the last week, and I let him go. So we're really fingers crossed that he lives. But that's the downside to gun season. We've been lucky. We haven't had to deal with too much trespassing or illegal activity, anything like that. But
hopefully that means that people are becoming better when it comes to hunting ethics. We haven't had a trespassing issue in a long time.
We get it every once in a while on the north side, but they're not hunters.
But we've developed some relationships with some people, and it's helped. Mm-hmm. It just and we still, it feels like deer season's in the fourth quarter right now. We were talking about this morning. We're at halftime. The deer season's at halftime. We have 2 months left of deer season. There's still another gun season and a muzzleloader season and all the late bow. But it takes the woods a while to recover. It takes a week or two for deer to even start using a lot of these areas in daylight. We still have some good spots, but I
can't remember a time we've ever killed deer the week after gun season.
No, the week after, not so much. I know.
Granted, we're pretty much
Nick's blizzard buck last year was the day before extended guns. So he killed
it was a couple weeks after.
Yeah, he killed one in a good window there, but we got some crazy weather that helped that. But that's the downside to the love-hate with gun season. We love what it does for families hunting together and in the deer camp atmosphere, and we partake every year. But for example, yesterday, Saturday of gun season here in Ohio, I think we had a clean slate of no hunting on our entire group. I don't think anybody hunted yesterday. I took my daughter to go see Santa Claus, spent some time with the wife, watched Christmas movies, decorated the house. I didn't spend a single second in the woods yesterday. Saturday of gun season, Ohio. I know you didn't hunt at all.
Luke and I got invited to some deer drives, not within our area, though.
Yeah, you went and did some deer drives
We were pretty much pushers for people that wanted to shoot deer.
Mm-hmm. And that didn't go very successfully.
No, just a lack of deer at the time.
Yeah, so speaking of deer drives, there is a group around here. We don't have to name names if we want, but their efficiency in killing deer on deer drives is pretty incredible.
Yeah, those guys have got it figured out.
And I don't know if it's the properties they hunt. They've been doing it for so long, but there's a group that kills mature bucks consistently on deer drives that week. And a lot of times in the past, it's been some of the bucks that we've been watching.
This year, 0 of them.
Because we don't have any bucks.
Zero of them.
So kudos to the people that do have the deer drive thing figured out.
This year we just didn't do any. That doesn't mean we won't ever do them again. There's years where everything lines up perfectly, and it's beautiful for deer driving, and we can't wait to do it. And the farms line up, and But this year just wasn't one of those years.
Mm-hmm. We could go out deer driving now, but we decided we're going to sit this evening.
Yeah, we're going to do a bunch of sits this evening. Try to see if someone can get a buck killed on film, but. That wraps up our love-hate for deer season. Coming up in a few weeks, we've talked about it. We're going to have a major bow hunting episode. All our rut bow hunting footage. We have 2 really good hunts. I filmed Nick. 2 beautiful hunts with Nick where there's extremely mature, large deer. They're just great hunts. Luke has 2 really good hunts. One where he watches a mature buck pushes does around a cornfield for 20 minutes. Really, really, really good hunt. Isaac lost some footage of a hunt where he had an encounter with a decent buck. I don't know.
Yeah, it happens.
That'd probably be gone forever. You can see a couple of me.
I got the 32-year-olds tickling antlers in one of our plots.
Yeah, I think that's about the same as my hunting has been. Yeah. I don't have anything crazy that is unreleased. I think there's a couple buck encounters here and there, but we'll be making our late season push here once this gun season.
And we had a lot of good sits after gun season last year, me and you.
Yeah, oh yeah. And if we could get it, woe is me, but after all this dust settles, there could be a really good buck that moves in on one of these farms.
Which would be nice. We had some inklings of hope. They're on trail cameras over the past 2 weeks.
There was a buck that I would definitely have killed that was on trail camera Monday, chasing a doe, doing rut activity Monday. That's kind of been a theme for Monday. Mm-hmm. And I just wasn't in the right stand to kill him. I was as far away as possible from killing him.
Hopefully he shows up to some of our core properties.
That'd be great if he gets pushed out of somewhere.
And a lot of the woods is a mystery, too, because cameras have been dead because of cold weather. Some of them are coming back alive today because it's 40, 50 degrees out.
Yeah.
So our cameras froze, and if the batteries are less than 50% and it's 0 degrees out, they're not going to send pictures. Mm-hmm. And then once they thaw out, they start sending pictures again.
Yeah. Today, it's funny because one of those cameras today has been dead all week, and it's on a major, major, major doe bedding area. It hit 40 degrees today, and it sent 25 pictures of does piling into this bow bedding area. So I wonder what's been happening all week on that camera, you know?
So there's still a lot of mystery in the woods. There's still some excitement going on.
It's going to be fun. I guess we'll just close this out here real quick. I watched the newest Seek 1 video, Lee Ellis's 212-inch Ohio buck that he killed, and it's awesome. It's incredible. Like you got to give props if you're in the business we are. I mean, that video is as close to perfection as I've seen outside of Bill Winke's Double G4, series of
Saga.
videos. That whole 3 or 4 years of hunting that 200-inch typical. I mean, that is the standard that'll never be met because it's just beautiful. He's got all the sheds and all the encounters and all the situations and missing him and then ended up killing him. And
so
if he would have killed him the year before, it would have been a world record. All that stuff, Bill Winke's deer, with the THP guys helping him film it before they were famous. It's just a beautiful story. Lee Ellis's Seek 1's latest video is pretty close to that.
He hunts completely opposite of us, but it's still super cool to watch.
Yeah, this video, he hunts not how we hunt, even though he does kill a big farm buck without bait, and he was very adamant about wanting to do that, and it's an incredible story. He still ended up killing a deer within 100 yards of a house. And it brings up a lot of points that we'll talk about in the off-season tactics-wise. Outside of deer feeding early, when that October lull hits, before the rut, before late feed when they have to eat or they die, those October lull moments, it seems that those mature 5, 6, 7-year-old whitetails are retreating into their cover that they feel safe in and spend an incredible amount of time in.
Especially if there's oaks nearby. They don't have to travel.
Yeah, and Lee ended up killing this buck on a bump and dump method. He bumped him out the night before, and the buck came back the next morning to lay down in his bed, and he killed him. And it's an awesome hunt. Hunting bedding like that it's a good tactic if you have lots of places to go. Because, for example, if we would hunt a bedding area like that on our farm and have an unsuccessful hunt, and you got to get out of the tree and walk out and all the wind and everything, it's going to ruin it for weeks. And this video shows it. He bumped him hanging his setup, and I think the deer was gone 3 or 4 weeks. So he relies on cell cameras a lot, and it shows. It's just a great video. You got to watch it. It's 2 hours and 25 minutes long, so prepare for that.
Check it out. And if you're listening to this, go check out Deer Camp video.
Yeah, Deer Camp video, our longest video ever, is going to be live.
Yeah, we're going to get ready to go out. I'm going to go in and get this podcast posted.
Yeah, Isaac's got to go work on this podcast because we don't have time otherwise. So,
yeah.
Got anything to add?
Nope, I'm going to butcher my deer.
Okay. I could probably help you for a little bit.
What number are we, 72?
72.
Deer Shot Podcast, episode 72. Thanks for listening. We are out.